I love drinks that are made with ginger, and it's another wonderful way of kind of layering flavor into a drink. I always had this one drink, and it's on this site as well, called the Sage Heaven, which was a drink that I did with ginger. It was a very popular drink. It was a drink that a lot of people loved. But I'll tell you this funny story. As a woman came in, and I'd given her this drink, and she goes, "Oh my God, this is incredible, blah, 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 blah." So she has that drink, and she's there, so then I make her a second drink. And she's like, "Eh." And I was, okay. I made her a third drink. She was like, "Eh." I made her a fourth drink, and she was like, and a huge light bulb went off. And I ran upstairs, and I made her a drink. She goes, "Now that's a drink." And what I realized is if it didn't have ginger in it, she didn't think it was great. But what was my issue there is like, I didn't have a lot of drinks with ginger. So I had this Sage Heaven. So after the Sage Heaven, what was I going to do? So I came across this cocktail that was created by Audrey Sanders from New York called the Gin Mule. And it's basically a hybrid of a mojito meets a Moscow Mule. And I think she put ginger beer in it, but it was basically like cucumber, mint, gin, and ginger beer. And I'm not a fan of ginger beer. I'm not a fan of like taking something that's already sweetened and having to bounce in my cocktail. So it's like, you know what, I'm going to make a version of this. I'm going to use fresh ginger juice, and I'm going to top it with sparkling wine or champagne instead to have that effervescence. So I came up with this drink called an Easter Island. And one of the things that really makes it spectacular is the addition of this herb called huacatai. Huacatai is a black Peruvian mint, originally from Peru. It's got a really, really unique flavor. It's from the marigold family. Marigolds are those kind of carnation-like flowers that you see at the Day of the Dead festivals. They're the orange and the yellow carnations. But this is such a unique flavor, and I feel, listen, if you don't have this, if you can't get this, obviously mint is great. But I feel with the times that we live in right now, I really feel that there's going to be a way that you can get this online somewhere through Amazon or something. I recently had to get curry leaves that are out of season from one of my farmers, and I was able to get them fresh. So I think more things are becoming more accessible. But let's just walk you through this real fast. I can't emphasize enough how great of a champagne cocktail this is. So we're going to use cucumbers, and I typically like to use English cucumbers, but the Persian cucumbers, which are a little bit shorter and smaller and not as thick, they have a lot of beautiful flavor and a lot of sweetness. I love the flavor of these. So because they're smaller, we're probably going to use about 4 pieces of these. I'm going to cut 4 rounds of about 1/8 of an inch thick. These are really probably the greatest eating cucumbers. So put those in. I'm going to take about 4 or 5 leaves of the huacatai. I would say if you're using regular mint, absolutely do the same. So we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. And then we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of an agave syrup. So this is a 1-to-1 ratio of agave nectar to water. I have the recipe on this site as well. The next thing we're going to use, and I kept it in its original container so you could really see, is you could get fresh ginger juice at any Whole Foods. There's a juice bar there. You could go to a local juice bar. Sometimes now they have actually little bottle containers of ginger juice that they just sell in the refrigerated section, like in a juice section and in places. So we're going to put 1/8 of an ounce of this in there. And again, this is probably about $4 to get 4 ounces. So it's going to go a long way. If you don't end up using it all, it will last for 5 days. You can take ginger shots in the morning just because it's really, really good for you, for immunity. We're going to muddle that up with this amazing OXO muddler that has these teeth, because I really want to get this down into a pesto. Really breaking it up. And this huacatai, it's just such an amazing, unique flavor. So now we're going to add 2 ounces of gin. And then we're going to pour this into a champagne flute. I love the elegance of this, the cleanliness of this. We're not going to have ice in this, obviously. So it's going to be something that we actually double strain. So we use 2 different strainers to get any particles out, make it really clean and beautiful. Let's get some ice in here and shake it. Give that a good shake. And then I'm going to double strain it with a tea strainer. So what that means is I'm going through using a Hawthorne strainer, and I'm straining it through this tea strainer. So I'm getting out any particles, ice chips. And typically most flutes are about 4.5 to 5 ounces. So that's actually going to be perfect, because with that exact amount of space that's left over, you're not going to go all the way to the top, but you're going to top it off with a sparkling wine or champagne. I'm going to use a sparkling wine. If you wanted to measure it, it's probably about 1 ounce. But we're going to we're going to top it off. Like you'll see, it's like we're just trying to get an effervescence in there. We don't want to change too much of the quality of the drink. So I'll pour that on top. And then I'll use this bar spoon here, which really helps so that that champagne or that sparkling wine is not just sitting on top. Because sometimes you'll take a sip of something, you want it to be the whole drink. You don't want them to just taste sparkling wine and then the drink is underneath it. So this helps keep it all together. And obviously looking at this, it is pretty, but it is very monochromatic. So I always try to lighten something up or brighten something up. And I'm going to use, we just happen to have them in season right here now, these yarrow flowers. And they're bright yellow. And listen, if you can find something that's on long stems, it's perfect, right? Because what you're doing is that will help kind of elevate these so that it doesn't sink right into the glass, right? So we'll put that down, it stands up a little bit, and there we go. And I call this the Easter Island, okay? Easter Island because if you know what Easter Island is, it's a very, very unique place that has these incredible, huge, huge, huge stone faces on it. And nobody knows how it got there. Or it's one of those mysterious places, let's just put it that way. And I feel like this is really what this herb is. It's like it just dropped down from somewhere, and it's incredible. So let's try it. It's a perfect champagne cocktail. It's got all the layers. It's got the sweetness, the sourness. It's got the wakatai coming through. And that's the thing is, if you're able to get that wakatai, it's one of those flavors that you just want to have more. You want to have the next step. What is that? It's a long finish. And that's what I look for, and that's what I think really gets people interested. So have fun with it. Enjoy. I hope you can find the wakatai, and good luck. Cheers.